we want to start by hailing President Joe Biden for taking the decision to lift a good chunk of the executive orders which he had been inhibiting Zimbabwe from fully participating in the global economy. It was a courageous decision on his part. You got to remember that he was the original sponsor of the ZANU Act in 2002 when he was a member of the US Congress, him and the former Vice President Hillary Clinton. So he's a man who knows Zimbabwe well. And for him now, as President of the United States, the most powerful country in the world, to have had the sincerity and the courage to actually revisit the issue of sanctions and to nullify or to remove a bunch of executive orders, it is a positive thing. And as Zimbabweans who have suffered for so long, we really welcome that decision on the part of the US President. It's coming almost 2 decades of continuous executive orders against Zimbabwe by US presidents. It was almost a yearly routine that come February, come March, those sanctions will be renewed or will be increased or aggravated. So to have them this time in 2004 being removed, it is a very positive thing. I also want to add that as ZANU PF, we have always worked under the mantra of our president. We want to be enemy to none and friend to all. So it looks like the message is getting through. There is absolutely no reason why a little country of 16 million people, landlocked, snug in the middle of Africa, would ever, under any consideration, be viewed as a threat to the US foreign policy. We neither have the population, nor do we have the economic means, nor do we even have the intention, let alone the capability, to try to frustrate the foreign policy of a superpower. So by and large, if you remove emotional, perhaps ideological, and geopolitical considerations, there is absolutely no reason why Washington would ever view Zimbabwe as a threat to its foreign policy. So from that aspect, by the President of the United States to actually lift some of these sanctions today, it's an acknowledgement that the designation of Zimbabwe as a threat to US foreign policy is misplaced. And I also want to say they should have been removed a long time ago, but better late than never. And more important, yes, there are still a raft of other sanctions in place from the Congress ones, and there are still some Zimbabweans who are placed on sanctions, particularly our head of state and his vice president. This is really a matter of great regret that the President of the United States should continue to try to roll over old grudges against Zimbabwe, particularly its leadership. There's absolutely no reason to stigmatize a country by designating its head of state, who is actually the embodiment of that country's global expression, to designate him as somebody who should be under sanctions. It creates a wrong impression because he's the primary diplomat and the primary businessman of Zimbabwe. He's the primary interactor of Zimbabwe in all global affairs. So if you designate him, it's almost the same as also trying to brand that country in a certain manner. So if the intentions of the President of the United States were to help Zimbabwe and its people lighten the burden which has arisen out of their own sanctions, he should have gone the whole hog, and he should have removed our president and any of the other members who are still on that list. That is it may. We all remember Floyd George. He says, please take off your boot I want to breathe. Now, there were 2 boots placed on the Zimbabwe neck, and one of them has been removed. It's a good thing. It means we may breathe. We may have a little bit more air to breathe. So it is a good thing that Floyd George is having more air to breathe. We do hope that the other boot will also be soon removed so that he can fully breathe. The congressional sanctions, they are still in place. Of course, they are beyond the purview of the President of the United States, but he has the power to persuade his Congress to lobby against them. They are really now much more of an emotional issue because America could not countenance that the geopolitics of Southern Africa, which had hitherto favored white minorities, had been upended by the national liberation movements in the 1960s and 80s and 90s. We eventually won. But America had axed its policy upon the dominance of white minority settler regimes of European stock. Of course, America is also of European stock. So there was an element of racial affinity on the plight of white minorities that lost the power, but along the way they also lost their hold on the resources of Southern Africa to the majority. So there was a kith and kin element in these sanctions, so they are emotional. The truth is that we have taken back our land and it's not going back, and we are now farming it, and farming it very well. But even more exciting is that we have deracialized the land. Even the whites have come back now to become part of the new prosperity which Zimbabwe is enjoying. So we are now a country of shared prosperity between black and white, unlike the country of divided prosperity, of denied prosperity on racial lines. So we are plodding along very well as Zimbabweans. So why would America continue to fight kith and kin racial wars about trying to restore land to the white population, our white minority, who anyway are almost a generation beyond that initial tiff? And most of them, they are now finding that home is the best, and they are coming back from all over the world. The white diaspora is coming back. The first one from the 70s, which ran away from Ian Smith's war, they are coming back. They are old, but they are coming back. The other younger generation from the 80s who did not want majority rule, they are also coming back. Then there's also the meltdown generation, which blended with the black population as the economy tanked under sanctions. Everybody is coming back. Why are they coming back? It's because President Mnangagwa has been doing fantastic work in terms of economic reforms, doing for business ethics and incentives, and generally exciting the best capital in the world, private capital, to come to Zimbabwe and invest. We are very happy that in a month's time we will be starting to produce steel on a scale Africa has never known. This is Zimbabwe under President Mnangagwa. We just discovered oil. It's a rich country. So we will soon be enjoying the disappearance of the drought of energy because of fossil fuels, because we will be having both gas and petroleum. There are many other minerals which are in Zimbabwe's bonanza right now. And these are all attracting world-class capital from the best boardrooms across the continents. There's no reason why the Americans should be missing. The Chinese are here, the Indians are here, the UAE people are here, South Africans have always been here, the British companies never left, even some American companies never left. So we want more of those American companies. And the removal of sanctions sends a signal to them that you can go and do business in Zimbabwe. So this is a very positive thing, that sanctions have been removed. Even the mere mention of the word remove, it relaxes the apprehension of boardrooms in America, business boardrooms, about going to Zimbabwe to do business. So this has got an announcement effect to tell the American business people, go and join businessmen from other countries who are coming to Zimbabwe, taking advantage of the best educated population on Africa, the most organized labor force, which can quickly convert capital into profit. This is the fault of Zimbabwe. Quick conversion of capital into profit. So this is what we want to sell to the Americans. And this signal by President Biden to say sanctions have been removed, it goes down very, very well. So we like it from that aspect. But no, he is he's in his 80s now. I'm sure he would not want to go to the next world as the president who kept Zimbabwe in sanctions for a good part of his adult life, because he was in Congress when they were passed. We really hope that President Biden will listen to those who are positive from his own administration, and there are many who like Zimbabwe who are not as emotional as some of the congressional leaders who always are impulsive when the issue of Zimbabwe is raised. So we hope that he can follow those. We also want to take this opportunity to thank the American diplomats who have been based in Zimbabwe. Their colleagues previously worked on a route. Each time they made reports about Zimbabwe, they relied on their affinity to the CCC, to the former MDC, to the opposition, because these people had an ambition, a desire to become rulers of Zimbabwe, even without the mandate of the Zimbabwean electorate. Now, it looks like candid and honest reports by American diplomats at the U.S. Embassy in Harare have finally gone back to the State Department, which has reassessed its reportage on Zimbabwe and made a departure from 2 decades of impulsive, negative, punitive action against Zimbabwe. So this is a very good thing for American diplomacy, and we want to thank the team at the embassy, U.S. Embassy in Harare, for having pushed this agenda in Washington. You know, they are only functionaries. They are dealing with their leaders who are elected officials, who are in the executive, who are in the Congress. But for the functionaries to finally have penetrated that veil of negativity about Zimbabwe, it is a good thing for American diplomacy. You know, it's Americans and Democrats, given a chance, they would want to be fair. You know, I know there are many things which may weigh down on them on prejudices and other things, but given a chance, America can be fair. And we also want to say, America is the largest economy in the world. They've put most of the financial architecture of the world. They hold sway. So by removing some of these sanctions, they make it possible for Zimbabwe to become part of the global digital economy. We are now looking at the prospects of Zimbabweans opening PayPal accounts, of Zimbabweans being part of the artificial intelligence drive, which is pushing global financial inclusivity, the envelope of global financial inclusivity. Zimbabweans want to be part of the global community. So this signal from America, it is a good thing. The only wish is they should go the whole hog and remove the sanctions, and they should remove the albatross around our President E.D. Mnangagwa. He means well. And finally, nothing succeeds like success. Clearly, America is registering the success which President Mnangagwa has scored in terms of Zimbabwe's economy. And America would deal, nobody wants to be left when there is success drifting along. You also want to be part of the boat, sailing along success. So they see the success of the president, and it is a backhanded pat on the president of the Republic of Zimbabwe by America to say, we see what you are doing, your economy is growing, the IMF says it is growing, the World Bank, it is growing, boardrooms all over the world are saying Mnangagwa is a good person for business. So this message is getting through. So that's why nothing succeeds like success. America wants to be part of that success. And because they were some of the best businessmen in the whole world, we like their acumen, business acumen. We want them to come here, challenge the Indians and do better than them, challenge the Chinese, do better than them, challenge the UAE, challenge South Africans, challenge everybody. So American businessmen can show its prowess Who is the winner? Of course, they make money, like I told you. But Zimbabwean people are the ultimate winners, because out of that competition of various sources of capital, we get the best possible performance. He who runs best wins the trophy. This is all what we want, and this is the mood by which we want to greet the removal of these sanctions. Yes, we have angst, we have regret that the other boot is still on our neck, but at least Floyd George can half breathe. This is a good thing. Maybe this time he won't have to die. We do things according to our president because they are good for Zimbabwe, not because we want to please other countries. If other countries end up being happy about what we are doing, it is a bonus. And President Mnangagwa means well for the people of Zimbabwe. He wants to deepen their democracy. He wants them to enjoy human rights. Look, he has just now moved to repeal the idea of the death penalty, which he has opposed all his life. He is reaching out to bring African countries in the region to come together to tackle African problems. We see positive movements in the DRC and the Great Lakes region. He has somehow been engaged because he has got a long memory of what has been going on. He has also recently had the honor of being honored by fellow regional diplomats at the death of the African stalwart and the burial of the African stalwart, Comrade Dr. Hakainde Hichilema. He is a man who enjoys the prestige and status of his fellow colleagues in the region. And we even have a positive statement from President Hakainde from Zambia, Hichilema. He says, we are very happy that President Biden, listened to his African colleagues. So I'm sure President Hichilema had an ear with President Biden. Why? Because he thinks Comrade President Mnangagwa is a good man. So everybody in the region is voting for President Mnangagwa. Why would America want to be an exception when all the regional players are supporting him? So this is a good thing that President Biden is finally listening to the voice of Africans on issues which are of an African nature. And the voice of the Africans is that they want Zimbabwe out of sanctions. This is all what the Africans want. So it is a good thing that maybe if we take from President Hichilema that President Biden has decided to listen to the IU, to SADC, to the non-aligned movement, and to many other in the international fora who have been championing the case against sanctions for Zimbabwe. A very important take from this development, it is that we are striving to make a multiracial society. We speak English, which Americans speak because of their common British background. Our people in the region will probably be speaking English for the next 200 to 300 years because it's a lingua franca for the world. So there is a lot of cultural and linguistic and other affinities between Zimbabwe, America, and the Anglo-Saxon world. Sometimes America wants to highlight geopolitical issues of the fight against China, against Russia, against which other power. These are transient. 300, 400, 500 years from now, we will still be working together with people of former English stock who would probably be as Zimbabweanized as anybody are, as they are today. So why not work for a multiracial society in Southern Africa based on what binds us together, rather than continue to sow divisions about things which make us grow asunder? This is my appeal to the Americans. Let's look at the long term. Let's look at the multiracial project in Southern Africa. Let's support it.